DeMarcus Ware is going to get a lot of Hall of Fame votes. He played only 12 years in the NFL, but made the Pro Bowl 9 times, most sacks in Cowboy franchise history, a 2-time NFL sack leader. To me, he's a Hall of Famer, and he is retired and looks happy and healthy, and he is now joining us live. Second fastest player to ever reach 100 sacks in the NFL. I'm not somebody that says, fire everybody. That's not who I am. I've never been that sportscaster. But I look at Dallas. I see the lack of effort. And I think to myself, listen, smart people make mistakes. You can't cling on to a coaching staff and say, it's going to work. Is it possible Jerry Jones, a smart guy, just made a mistake with his coaching hire, DeMarcus?
You know, that I can see that that's happening, but you know, I go back into like preparation for the season. I see a lot of the guys having lack of confidence, which is equating to lack of effort on the football field. I watched the whole game right at the beginning. I mean, they played well enough to win the game. Then all of a sudden you get, 2 or 3 turnovers. You're not blocking on offense. I understand you had a whole bunch of injuries, but the mistakes that keep happening over and over again and guys missing tackles, that equates to coaching and the players being confident in what they're actually doing out there instead of making mistakes.
Yeah.
So it could have been a wrong coaching hire, but I see a lot of lack of effort.
Yeah. It's interesting. Trent Dilfer was on, and he said he doesn't see – he calls them fire breathers. He goes, you need a locker room. You need 6 or 7 guys. Like Brady's like that. Who's the leader this morning? Dak's hurt. Who's the leader of the Cowboys this morning? Who is it?
I can't even sit right here and tell you who the leader is of the Dallas Cowboys. The first name I would think about is like Leighton Vander Esch, right? Or I would think about Ezekiel Elliott or DeMarcus Lawrence, but none of those guys actually fall into that leadership role when you start thinking about when you're down by 30 points. Do you see those guys pushing each other on the sideline, doing what they need to do to keep the team going? So I don't see a lot of leadership, but then it goes back to the coaches, where that all starts at, and if there's even any trust in what they're doing. So hopefully they get everything together and get everything in line.
DeMarcus, when you see leaks from a locker room, and I'm always like, it doesn't matter if it's the White House or a locker room. If you see leaks, what it tells you is people don't trust the person at the top. Were you ever part of a Cowboy team with leaks? And when it happened, if it did you know who did it? Or do you think they're all going like, who's leaking stuff? Or do players know?
The players know who's leaking any information that's out there because somebody is the mole in the locker room all the time. And sometimes you put information out there to see if it will even get out. And once it gets out to some certain media outlet, you know who that person is. And then you start having distrust. And so, again, that leak or that mole that's out there has now leaked out the wrong information. And so there's distrust in the whole locker room, the whole area there. So I just think that trust, respecting each other, lack of effort, and wanting to and having the right scheme for the guys that you have, because you got 4-3 personnel, but you're running sort of a 4-3. I'm talking about from a defensive standpoint, a 3-4 defense. The guys aren't two gapping. They're playing, 4-3, getting up the field, trying to funnel the guys to the inside, but they're not two gapping like they should. So you see so many holes on defense where the guys just running straight up the field. You got, guys that's supposed to be in cover 2 or in zone coverage. They're in a totally different coverage. So it's like, what are you guys actually thinking right now? Where are you getting all this information from, and why aren't you doing the right plays?
So you just told me during the break, you're like, I'm not playing football again. We were joking. The Seahawks need a pass rusher. Arizona needs a pass rusher. Baltimore could use a pass rusher. You're like, I see those guys getting hit. I got no interest. But are you surprised that Tom Brady at 43, that it's already working, that it looks like it's cinched up? He threw it 4 different guys, caught a touchdown pass. Are you a little surprised that it looks like 7 weeks in, they could be the best team in football?
I'm not surprised, because one thing you said that you want in the locker room is a fire-breathing dragon. You want a captain. And when you start thinking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you think about Brady being that captain. He's that guy that's pushing them to no limit. they're doing everything that they can to win football games for him, and that's what you want in the locker room. And I'm talking about, from a Dallas Cowboys standpoint. But look at, Tom Brady. Those guys are doing everything for him, and they're trying to win the Super Bowl, and their defense is playing lights out.
I was telling Joy, she's from Pittsburgh, I said, the Steelers are obviously well constructed, but I don't trust Big Ben. He just drives me nuts. And I know he's talented, and I know you've faced him before. But he makes some throws, DeMarcus, and this is who he is. Late in games, I don't think he always makes great decisions. When you faced him, was the book on Ben? What was the book on him? Could you force him into mistakes? What did you guys know going into Ben?
I mean, going into the game, we knew that if we get pressure on him, he's going to either, throw an interception. He's going to get the ball off fast. That's going to, create some type of turnover. So a lot of the teams now, knowing that he's not the same Ben where he can move around and make guys miss, so they create a lot of pressure on him. And if that ball is in his hand 2 and 3 seconds, he throws that ball away really, really quick. And just like you said, like in the playoffs, right? You can trust Ben during the season, but when it comes to that big game to where he has to do what he needs to do, the guys start blitzing him, making him make those indecisive decisions, and then he loses the football game.
Yeah. So you said you don't want to play again. This new league we're watching, no preseason. It's all offense. It's crazy town. I'm watching Arizona, Seattle. You got 70 points. You don't want to play, you said, but if you were to do it all over again, would you pick defense, or do you look at the game now and you think, all the rules are against defense. You can't do anything. Do you like this football, which in the last 3 to 4 years, DeMarcus, is so offensive driven? Does it drive you nuts, or would you, if you were in high school or junior high again, would you choose offense?
Dude, I love just the way that the game's going. You're not practicing. There's not a lot of off season. Usually the defensive guys are the ones that get beat up the most, right? But now the teams are passing the ball like 80% of the time. And with me being a pass rusher, and I know that left tackle sitting there, I don't care who it is, I can rush the passer 80% of the times. I'm actually going to stay at defensive end, outside linebacker. I'm going to rush the passer, and I'm going to have about 20 sacks a year and keep it rolling. So if they keep it this way, I might come back.
Well, you look great. You're in a beautiful studio there. Very happy for you. You're going to be in the Hall of Fame. 12 years, 9 Pro Bowls, 2-time sack leader. We love having you on, man.
Hey, thank you for inviting me on. And like I said earlier, anytime you want to chat, you call me, I'll pick up the phone.
All right. DeMarcus Ware, the former Dallas Cowboy great, quality guy. It is, when you watch the game today, look at I watched last night. What does Arizona need? Chandler Jones, a pass rusher. What does Seattle need? A pass rusher. What does Tennessee need? A pass rusher. Pittsburgh's one of the few teams that generates massive pressure. Cleveland also. Myles Garrett is unblockable. So it is interesting. Now, Chicago's got a pass rusher. Obviously, Aaron Donald's unbelievable. But many of these best teams, all of their Achilles heel is the exact same thing.
But most of those teams you mentioned also play in cold weather.
Ask yourself this. You're Seattle, Joy. I said this 2 weeks ago. Call Houston. Get J.J. Watt. I mean, to me, Seattle cannot win the Super Bowl. And by the way, Houston needs cap space because they're paying their left tackle and Deshaun. They need to rebuild anyway.
They are in a rebuild.
Like, to me, I watch Houston, and I think, this is not a playoff team. You're not close to Tennessee in your division. You don't have nearly the roster. I think, and by the way, J.J. Watt, I know he loves Houston, but to insert him, Greg Olsen looks really happy in Seattle. I think if you're Seattle, I think you have to.
I don't think you're wrong. I just don't think Houston does it.
He's so popular.
Yeah.
T.J. Watt, J.J. Watt. What's next? Whatever it is, that family creates pass rushers. Weather's unpredictable. Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades. Get them at Walmart. The Herd.